We've been talking about this.
What were we going to call tonight? It was like...
Language awareness.
Language awareness 101.
Incredible that everyone knows how to speak. Oh, I mean, that can speak, blah, 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 right? And we all kind of think we have a good grasp on language and whatnot. And then you begin to learn more and more about it. And it's like, wow, it's absolutely incredible. Like everything, you know? Everything has like the surface level knowledge, but then you can get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I was talking to my daughter, right, about this because I'm thinking like when we've had this conversation, we've had this, would you shut your face? For God's sake, we've had this conversation, right?
Go, Karen, go.
A good bit.
Go.
Right? And it's like in my house, because I think that there's a lot of mental, there's a lot being done in the area of like how we speak and whatnot. And you know, I don't know if I'd say agendas or whatever, narratives or whatever being pushed. And a lot of it is kind of undergirded by just the way we use language. It's been amazing, like, I think it was C.S. Lewis. He talks about in one of his books about the word gentleman. And there was a time when the word gentleman meant something along the lines of like someone who had a coat of arms and owned property, right?
Oh.
That was like a descriptive term for a type of person, and it told you about that person. Like he's a gentleman, you know what I mean? It was like he had a coat of arms. One of those, right? Don't hold me to it, but there was like an objective kind of description that was going on there, like a landowner, whatever it would be, right? But now, what does it mean? Now it just like means like ladies and gentlemen, right? Just like a nice way to say like boys and girls, guys and ladies.
Yeah, but if somebody says, "Hey, you're being a gentleman," or "You need to be a gentleman," then what do you think?
Yeah, that would be, I guess, like you need to be behaved well, right?
Yeah.
Behave yourself. Be a gentleman.
Yeah, I think of like open the door for women. Yep, right. And say yes, sir, yes, ma'am. In my opinion, that's what comes to mind for me. I guess just how I was raised in that, you know.
Yeah.
Be a gentleman, be nice, be courteous. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe that's and the idea that he's trying to convey is that it no longer holds that objective meaning that it once held.
Right.
And so that word was kind of compromised. What do you think? Do you think that was compromised? So it's
Karen.
She's like, he's talking shit again. I can smell it. Another thing that was like I've been kind of thinking about is the word. I mean, this isn't on our list of amazing words that we discuss, but the word bruh. Everybody says bruh now.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder how far back the word brother goes. A long way. Right?
Like using it in social terms, you mean? More than just somebody who your mother birthed that's a male? Besides you?
Well, I guess
you know
that's a good question. Yeah. I mean, like the word has like definitive meaning in the sense that it typically denotes a male, right?
Right.
It does brother, male. It's been that way for a long time, or whatever. You know, and bro is the shortened term of brother, in my understanding. But now it's like just, you know, girls call other girls bro, you know?
Oh, I didn't even know that. I'm out of the social pipeline here, man.
When I asked my 16-year-old daughter, she's like, oh, we don't mean it like that at all. I'm like, what do you mean you don't mean it? She's like, no, that's bro. It's not like bro, it's like bro. And I'm like, what is bro? No.
So it's something different altogether. It doesn't even mean?
Apparently.
Okay. Hey, growing up, we would just say, hey, bro, and it meant like, you're like a brother to me.
Yeah, but only to
guys. Yeah, I would never call a girl bruh.
If you called a girl bro or bruh, it would be an insult.
Yeah, they would definitely be like, dude, what are you talking about? They would just give me a weird look.
Why do you call me bro? Like if a girl called you sis, it'd be insulting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? But there's this kind of like, so in one sense, there's an innocent side of just like people are saying what they hear. But in another sense, that word is being compromised to a certain degree. At least the idea that, you know, the maleness associated with that word is like it's being, you know, with a lot of these young people, they don't think of it like that at all.
Huh.
You know? Which is just one little teeny addition to the kind of language shaping the way that you think, you know, to where it's not too weird for a bruh to be a girl at all, or bro, you know, because that's all about this. It's the same word essentially, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, no, my bro's a girl.
That's crazy. Yeah. What's a word that I heard at the winter retreat? I didn't even know existed. Was Riz.
Riz.
Yeah. Oh, he's got Riz. She's got Riz. W Riz.
Yeah.
L Riz.
Yeah.
And they were trying to teach me this.
The ways of the Riz.
Yeah, the ways of the Riz. Like, I have never heard that ever in my life up until a few months ago. Like, where did these words come from?
No.
But the words, so getting back on the topic of like language awareness, how do these words come, like what's going on here? Why are these kids changing the words? Why aren't they using the words that are just common in the English language and they make up new words? I mean, that word's not in the dictionary. You pull up your web.
Not yet.
Oh yeah, but I'm sure it will be. I guess at some point words have to be invented.
Yeah, they're
right? So
constantly changing.
Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing that they come up with this new stuff?
Like, language is continually evolving. And even like scientists and whatnot are making up new words as they go along to describe different things. You know what I mean? Combining words differently. And language definitely does change over time. And
True.
that's unavoidable. And it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. But but I think that people can take advantage of it and shape our thinking, probably intentionally, by shaping, the language, the way we talk about things. So let's get to our actual list of language awareness.
So we actually
kind of a detour of maybe we'll throw that all in the trash. We'll ask the chicken. So language shapes your thinking, right? I think it's a fair point, right? How do you think? Like, when you're thinking in your mind, what's going on?
Well, you're using, at least I use words in my mind to think things through. When I think things through, I'm using words in my mind. When I'm dreaming, I'm using words. Words are a common thing in my mind. Is that where you're going?
I don't think much. Like, some people think with pictures a lot more.
Yeah.
I don't think that much with pictures. I think everyone thinks with words, right? Like, you ever thought, like what is a baby thinking? Because they don't speak words, right?
Right.
Although they understand them before they can. But, like, the idea is that, like, so you learn a language wherever you are. The language, and it's deeply cultural, and all the meanings are kind of deeply contextual. Like, there's, meanings derived from context or whatever, and that's how you learn. You're kind of immersed in this, right?
Right.
And it's an incredible thing, but what's equally as incredible is that we grow and develop, and we think with these words.
Right.
And often we don't even get to the bottom of, like, what they actually mean sometimes.
Yeah.
Think with language.
Yeah.
We think in our minds with the words that have been provided to us, and we define words and what is true and what is false based on, at least initially, based on our surroundings. Like, when you're, like, kids believe their parents about pretty much everything at first, and they start to get to, like, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, different kids, and we begin to kind of, like, if you have a teenager, you don't have a teenager yet.
No, 10-year-old.
You'll see. Is she starting to kind of buck at any of your suggestions? Are you seeing any of that yet?
Yeah,
a little bit.
It's starting.
Yeah. So it's interesting because they're like, it's not necessarily bad. They're starting to kind of get their own way of thinking.
Yeah, it's independence and coming to their own conclusions, thinking through things on their own. I think that's healthy. I don't want them to just parrot me the rest of their lives. I want to teach them how to think so that they can do things on their own. That's the goal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
since you love them, you want them to know what is true, and you want them to come to their own conclusions, you know what I mean, and to seek truth and whatnot, right?
Right.
So that is our first word, truth.
Truth. Good segue into the first word. I like that. What is truth? Define it.
How can you possibly define truth? Truth. My truth or your truth? Now, what do you think? Do I have a truth and you have a truth?
I think we could each have our own truth. No, I'm kidding. I'm just
Well, a lot of people think that.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
That's true.
That is a true statement. Yeah, see, we say that. Like, I say that. Oh, it's true. And it just rolls off the tongue, right?
Yeah.
Going back to what you're saying earlier, your mind uses words, right? And it's like this concept, oh, that's true, that I'm trying to just, I'm just trying to state this concept. It's true, but what does that mean? What is true?
What is true? Is it different than factual, right?
Or reality. I was looking up, Googling, what is define truth, and it says the state of reality, or what is real. I'm like,
that which best aligns with reality. but that which actually aligns with reality, right? Like what is most true is what is most true. It's what actually aligns with the way things actually are, right? But then, like, actually, I was in an online school when I was probably 20 years old, and my English teacher, the only teacher that ever gave me a B, like in high school. I missed it by like a conversation point. I think she hated me after that. She said, we were talking about, so I made a comment. You have to make comments online, right? In order for it to like count.
Yes, discussion boards and things like that, yeah, right.
So I was like, I said, say you're writing a persuasive essay and you pick the topic, and as you're doing your research, you begin to believe the opposing side of your research. I said, what should you do? Should you forsake that and the time that you spend into it and move to the other side and try to persuade people that way? Or should you continue to try to persuade people with your persuasive essay of something you know not to be true? And so her response to me was, well, everyone has their own truth. And I'm like,
what?
I said, and so my response was, I think that you're just taking the word opinion and switching it out with truth.
You're right.
And I think everyone has their own opinion, everyone has their own beliefs, and I don't think everyone can have their own truth. And then she said, well, there was a school board, and they had decided, they went through all this research and whatnot, and decided to separate the sexes in this middle school or whatever, or grade school. And they had come to the conclusion that it was true, that it would be the best scenario for teaching these kids. Well, the parents got pissed off. They didn't like it at all. And so they all kind of came at the school board, wrote letters and whatnot, and they said, no, we don't like that. She said, so you see, the parents' truth did not align with the school board's truth. And I was like, this is the same, like, I like tried to not say the same comment that I just said.
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's just that they had different opinions about what was true, But this is the way people are using the word truth, which leaves us here. What the heck is truth?
That is so. That got me thinking. What's your favorite ice cream?
That's hard. I love ice cream. Maybe coffee, either coffee or cookies and cream, probably.
Okay.
Depending on who makes it.
So let's just say, for example, that your favorite ice cream is coffee, all right? And let's say my favorite ice cream is vanilla. Is this what that lady's talking about?
Maybe. And in this instance, right, what we should say is, my truth is coffee ice cream is the best ice cream, right? That's my truth. Your truth is, what'd you say?
Vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla ice cream is the best ice cream. But, so that maybe you could kind of say that, but I think it degrades the word, right?
Right.
Because it's not really like that's not what the word is for,
Right.
And what other word do we have to replace that word? Like we could say my opinion, or I believe,
Well, I think in that context, people are using the word truth, like you were talking about. This lady was using the word truth for the word opinion. She was using it incorrectly. And I think in this context of saying the best ice cream in the world is vanilla, that's not something that's not a truth, right?
Not
that's
objective.
an opinion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not an objective truth, right? So if I say, okay, my favorite ice cream is vanilla, okay, that is truth, right? That is true of me, right? That doesn't affect that your favorite ice cream is something different. That's true of you. Yeah. So it's understanding what truth is and applying it in the right context.
They can't conflict.
Right? Yeah, right.
And that's what truth can't do, right? Truth can't actually, it's not true that a ball is round and a square.
Right.
It's not true. One of the statements cannot be true. Because it is a ball, it cannot be a square, right?
Right.
Because it is a circle, it cannot be a square, right?
Right.
So that, and if we don't and we're kind of toying with the word fact, I guess, a little bit, right? That kind of gets in there. But if truth is that which aligns with reality, then the question is, okay, what is real? Let's define reality, right? So what, which is probably trickier than.
Yeah. Was it Confucius who said, "I think, therefore I am"? Mm-hmm. Right. He was contemplating reality, and
so you must be because you're thinking.
Right. Because right. So,
which is really interesting because that was like God's first revealing of himself, right? I am.
I am.
Right?
Yeah.
I am. Which is, and that gets into like logos and like the idea of like words and the power of words, and what words represent are essentially our ability to logically, our ability to have ideas. Like we create ideas. You know? You ever think about how crazy that is? Like you can literally create an idea, you know, in your mind. You know what I mean? That's what inventions are, right? People are doing this type of stuff all the time.
Right.
Where you gather a lot of information, and then you come up, or maybe you see a problem, and you can literally kind of create, maybe some people would say discover, but I think there's some creation in that as well. You certainly create what you're saying.
Right. I mean, you come up with ideas in your mind, and then words become the way of communicating that idea to something else or someone else, right? And I think about books, right? If you have a book in Chinese, it's a book on how to learn something, right? Now that has to be translated to English for you to learn that, right? So there has to be words that are comparable, that are kind of equal, but the idea is still the same, right? Like if I have this idea of how to build a wooden box, right? I could write it in English and give measurements or whatever and use English words to put that idea down on paper. Now the idea is still there, right? Now if you translate that into a different language, right, the words just become a means of communicating your ideas.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But they're also the means of formulating the ideas, even for the person writing a book. Like
True.
As you're writing a book or as you're writing whatever, you're kind of thinking through, and you'll think like, I should say this like this, and then you'll say, no, that's stupid. Or your wife will say, that sounds dumb.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any sense. And then you'll throw that idea out.
Right.
Or you'll kind of restructure it or whatever. And this is all happening, you know, with the language. So it's like if we don't understand, or if we lose important words, some words are important, right? Like truth is a very important word.
Right.
That which best aligns, or that which is reality. That's probably one of the most important words there is, because like I said before, we don't have a word to replace it.
Yeah.
We're not talking about fact, you know, like scientific fact. We're talking. It's deeper. I believe it's deeper because, I mean, we're Christians. We believe that God created the world.
Right.
Right. This is what we believe is the truth. Right. So the bottom line is we are right or we are wrong about these things. Right. So we're here. We're talking. We're discussing. Right. We want to believe what is true. Right. And I think one of the reasons we both, are followers of Christ is because, like, that's what's encouraged. Like, pursue what is true.
Yes.
Right? It's not like, believe what we say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, pursue the truth. And the more you read and learn, the more you see how absolutely miraculously the Bible represents what is true. And
Right.
even things that you might have some resistance with up front, when it's, because we also believe he's the author of truth, right?
Right.
So since he's creator, since he's made everything
Yes.
real, right? He is literally the source of all truth.
Right. Well, Jesus actually said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So Jesus is claiming to be the truth. Right?
Which is pretty incredible.
That's a powerful statement, right?
Yeah.
For him to actually, now if he created everything, right? He created me and you, right? He created truth, right? He's saying he is truth. That's truth. Even deeper than him creating truth, right? Like for him to say, so everything consists of him.
All that is true.
Right. I'm sorry, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Maybe that can be taken on.
Everything that's real, in a sense. But then there's real evil, right? And whatnot, you could argue.
Right.
But it's a tremendously important word, so that the danger, so we don't go too far into the million rabbit trails that we can do a whole thing on truth easily, right? And relativity of it. But what's I guess the takeaway from at least this word, I think, and tell me what you think, is that truth is an important word because we don't really have a substitute for that word, for that idea. Right? And if we allow truth to simply be kind of shoved off to the side as either opinion or like observable fact, right? You can't, it's not a fact that I love you, right? But you either believe that that is true or you don't believe that it's true.
Right.
It's either true or it's not. But it's not like a fact, right? We can't like put it in a picture.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and the deeper things are not measurable by scientific means, right?
Right.
Like the things we care about most, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't let go of that word. That's why this word is actually important. So if we allow it to be degraded and use it as if you have a truth and I have a truth, then we no longer have the word to even consider.
Yes, exactly.
What the truth is.
Right. Right. So, yeah, and understanding the idea that a word is basically a label to put onto an idea, right? It's like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's a way to translate in your mind and to use an actual form of communicating, right? And if I say to you truth, that idea pops in your head. You know what that means. It's a label. Now, if we take like a phone, right? And we take the word phone, and now we tried to switch that label out to mean something else, right? The phone doesn't change. It's the word, you're trying to like confuse somebody and change the idea in somebody's head to mean something different. And that's truth is such a powerful thing. Yeah. And when you try to just push and change that label to something else, that can be very dangerous and have very serious effects.
Yeah, it's going to affect your understanding of the idea. Right? I mean, like the phone doesn't change, the idea doesn't change, the truth about what it is doesn't change, but the understanding and the ability to convey what you're saying, the communication, the ability to communicate that idea changes. And it changes so fundamentally that you can't even really, you try to get like if somebody's grasped this idea that truth is just opinion, then trying to even explain to them that there is a truth, that might be too much, you know? Like they may not even have the ability to kind of conceive that, you know? Just because to them it's been subconsciously impressed upon them without even any resistance or any reason to resist. Like the idea, like what is truth?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you've been grown up indoctrinated with the idea that this label means something different, right? Now when I say something to them, I say truth, they think it's something different because they've been pushed and indoctrinated to believe that, right? They're switching the labels to the truth, switching the labels to the idea to mean something different. So now we can't have a conversation because our terms mean different things.
That's true.
That's fact. Facts. That's, kids say that. They say, oh, you're spitting facts. Facts.
And what is the new one lately? Cap.
What does that even mean? It means you're lying?
Yeah, it means you're lying. My son told me that. Cap.
Where does that even come from? I don't get that.
I have no idea. Maybe crap without the R? I don't know.
You're lying.
But cap is supposed to mean lying. That's what he told me. I believe him.
No, it makes sense.
Whether it's true or not?
Right, so...
Tell us in the comments. Tell us.
Yeah, please, tell us.
What does cap mean? Where did it come from?
I think it means... I'm wearing a cap. Is that a lie?
That's because you're old. Oh, you have a cap on.
Is this true?
That's very true. Yes, I guess, depending on how you define the word cap. Now, there's a cap back there.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we conveyed our thoughts about that word. So the next word, love.
Love.
Love is love, bro.
Yeah.
Bruh.
If you don't love me, you're not gonna encourage everything that I say and everything that I want.
Yeah.
You don't love me.
Yeah, if you're not gonna make sure that I'm happy with every word that comes out of your mouth.
I want all your money, and if you love me, you would give me all your money.
True.
Right? Because I want it.
Not true. I didn't say that. I'm already blowing it.
Okay. So let's talk about love. Like, I've heard that word many times in movies. It's written on billboards. You will love this. She will love this. Whatever. What is it? What does that mean?
So much, right? There's so much. Like you can legitimately say, like, I love this car. Right? Yeah. I love this car. I love just about anything. I love beer.
Right.
And then you could say, so there's different levels of the word.
Yeah, because I love my wife, but I love her more than I love vanilla ice cream.
Yes.
Right, so how do we...
Yes.
So why is it one word that means all these different things? That's crazy.
That's an interesting point.
Especially a powerful word like that.
Yeah, it can be tremendously powerful, and it can be used very
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Oh, I love pizza. Let's get some. I love pepperoni, you know?
Yeah.
I love salt, you know?
You love salt?
My brother loves salt.
My mother-in-law has salt. She carries with a salt container with her at all times in her purse, and she dumps it on everything. She dumps salt on salt.
No.
I'm serious.
Yeah?
I'm serious.
Just
Anyway, I don't know how we got on that. Oh, yeah?
So love. Define the word. So I think we need to talk more specifically
Yes.
about the deeper, like
Okay.
love, like
Not just the loving pizza. We're going to get into like the actual
Yeah.
deeper.
like what is love?
I love my wife.
Yeah. So how it and it's also interesting to see like who has the right to define these words? Does anybody have the right to define these words?
That's a great point.
And if so, you know, why do they have the right? You know, and then also, I guess the cultural application of that word weighs pretty heavily on it, no matter what anyone says.
Right.
Right? Like even if we say this is what love is supposed to be, that's okay, and it may be true. That may be what is true.
Yeah.
However, whether or not the culture uses that or aligns with that,
Right.
may.
The culture may use a word that doesn't align with reality, and the word love could have been misconstrued or deflated to mean something completely, like just to scratch the surface of what that actually means.
Yeah. And there again, what do we end up? We end up with a loss of an ability to convey
A thought and an idea. Right.
Right?
Right.
Like this concept, right, of what love is. So when you begin to undermine that word, right?
So something that comes to mind is it ties into truth, what we talked about earlier, right? So if you go to the top of a parking garage and you see a number and you're like, this is a 6. Okay, it looks like a 6. Somebody else comes up and goes, that's not a 6, that's a 9, right? Now people will say, oh, his truth is that it's a 9. My truth is that it's a 6 because he's looking at it from that angle, I'm looking at it from this angle. So how do we figure out what the actual idea is that aligns with reality, right? You get a drone, you shoot the drone up, right? And you look down, you see, oh, there's a 1, oh, and it's a 6. Okay, so the truth is now, the reality is that it's a 6.
Yeah.
Because, right?
Because you widen out your perspective, right? The person that has the best perspective, or the perspective that is able to take in as much information as possible,
Yeah.
has a much higher likelihood of the person that is only using their.
Tunnel vision, yeah. And so you apply this to the word love, right? Now you have to think, are we looking at love as a 9 when it should be a 6? You know what I mean? And if you think about the power that the media has, right? If the media, and when I say media, I mean news, I mean movies, I mean newspapers, everything, if they push this word and they push you to adopt the word as a new idea, right? Now it's so much harder for us to really get to the truth, right? If they say, oh, this 9 that showed up on top of this parking garage, and they just blast it out there, and everybody's talking about the 9, but the truth is it's not a 9.
And then like 4 weeks later, like you get all the other footage, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're like, how did they ever say it was a 9?
Yeah.
Look at all these tapes.
Right.
And then you find out that they knew about those tapes, but they just didn't show them to you.
Oh, this is getting too real here.
What's going on?
It's almost like this has happened before in real life.
Yeah, like, and why didn't they share, the whole story? Maybe they wanted us to believe something else. Which is like, so there it is, right? So me, I'll speak for myself. I want people to believe in Christ. I want people to believe the gospel.
Right.
Not because it gives me any power or kind of anything at all, really. That my experience has been that following Christ has, proven true over and over and over and over and over again. It's not easy, and he doesn't say it's going to be easy.
Right.
It's actually take up your cross and follow me. You know what I mean? And he actually challenges us with some difficult things. It's an uphill battle, right? You're kind of pushing against the norm. The norm is to just kind of follow your appetite or your desires,
right?
And that's not the walk, right? But what's amazing is I've found, that in the midst of denying yourself in the ways that he tells you to, you actually find joy and peace. It's like, wait a minute, like this is the opposite of what I think I want to do. This is the opposite of what I kind of want to do naturally, but it's getting me to where I actually want to be.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good, like, this seems like it's true, you know?
Right.
Like we're following this this method, and so they present to us this idea of love in the media and all this nonsense, right? And in movies and whatnot, which is mostly sex or sexual attraction, right? And the idea of like overly romanticized sexual love is what we see constantly, right? But in reality, if you have a shred of honesty, you know that's like, I mean, it's a chunk, but it's maybe in the marriage. Like for me, I would say we have a wonderful sex life, right? But I would say maybe 20% at the most of the marriage. Maybe at the most. That's what it accounts for. It's an important part. It's a wonderful part.
Right.
But it's not the whole thing, you know? And it cannot sustain the whole thing.
No.
You know? So it's like something way deeper than that. Has to be foundational.
Absolutely. And I've experienced that myself. Like I went into marriage thinking that sex was going to be like the glue that held us together, right? And here it's just like I felt lied to, right? By the movies, by the culture, by everything. Like I thought this was going to be everything, right? And here it's a small piece of what marriage is, right? And coming back to the word love, like I felt lied to about the definition of love. I thought love was what the movies and what the movies. I mean, I guess the movies is a huge thing.
It is, yeah.
I felt lied to that the movies told me that love was going to be this like strong feeling of affection that I would have nonstop. Okay, well what happened was, you get married and you realize, oh, she wants the toilet paper the other way, right? She wants things differently than what I want. Okay, so now the feelings start fading. Now what's going to happen, right? Is my love fading? Because according to the definition of love that I thought I knew, my love was fading for her, right? And then if you go talk to somebody else at your work, oh, dude, my feelings are gone. They'd be like, divorce and find somebody else that gives you those feelings back. So is that love or is it not?
Yeah.
Right?
And if it is, man, that sucks.
It's the suckiest definition of love I've ever heard.
It really is. Like there's this infatuation, right?
Yeah.
And like that's like awesome, right? Especially when you're young. We both got married young.
Right.
Because we're smarter than people.
That's right.
Smart people get married young.
Yeah.
Go get married.
How old were you?
I was 12.
Okay. 20. You're dyslexic, aren't you?
No, I was 20. I was almost 21.
I was 21. I was 21. She was 19.
I must have been 21. And she was 20, I think. Or 20 and 19. I can't remember. But we got married young. Okay. Right? And there's that strong feeling. I know you had a rough first year, right? I had a rough first year.
Yeah, I had a very rough first year, right?
Yeah. It was reality,
truth be told, it was a very rough first year.
Truth came smacking in, right?
Yeah.
Like reality was like boom to your feelings.
Yep. Yeah.
And you're like, oh wow, this is not all about oh, I love this person so much.
Yeah.
And you start to see, and then as you fight through that, and you go through the difficult work, which is actually love, right? Love's actually work, right? And you begin to get to know one another and put up with one another a little bit more and give each other a little more grace or whatever. And then you begin to learn what love really is. Love really accepts but calls for more, right? My wife, she loves me. I love my wife. We have a great relationship. She doesn't put up with much nonsense from me. You know what I mean? And we both kind of nip at each other a little bit or whatever. One's falling out of line, the other one kind of gets after it pretty quick.
So it's like accountability in some sense.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's like there's a roughness there. Not at all. Anything at all whatsoever like what our love was like. And it was real love in the beginning, but when we first, we were infatuated.
Right. You had those feelings on top of the, the feelings were there, and that helped. But then when the feelings start fading, now what? So for me, I started doing research and figuring out what's wrong with her. I'm being blatantly honest, right? I went and I started reading books, listening to everything I could. Yeah, how can I fix this woman?
She's Googling married broken woman.
Yeah, no, seriously, that's pretty much what I would do, right? Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, she was one way when we were dating, and okay, now I feel like she's changed. Okay, and that's a whole different topic there. She didn't change, right? There was the feelings that, you know what I mean? Like I was putting my view of what she was or what I thought she should be on her, right? And I wasn't doing the research to figure out who she actually was, right? Like, you know what I mean? So I was putting my label on top of her.
Yeah, that's profound.
And so I did all this research and figured out and tried to figure out how to fix her. And you know what? I found the answer. You know what it was?
What?
At the very end of this path, there was a mirror staring at me. And
So you couldn't fix her, huh?
it wasn't that I needed to fix her, it's that I needed to change me, right? My goal wasn't to change her and make her who I wanted her to be. My goal was to encourage her to be the person that God designed her to be, right? It wasn't
and to love.
Right, and that's what love is. It is a choice, right? And the feelings come and go. Feelings are feeling. Like I feel hungry sometimes. I don't feel hungry all the time, right? It's a feeling. Feelings are like a roller coaster. I have strong feelings for my wife a lot of the time. Yes, but sometimes I'll be mad at her and those feelings aren't there. And I'm like, oh, you just feel like a roommate. You know what I mean? And that's the way I felt like early on. I'm like, okay, you're more of a roommate.
Yeah.
But it's that choice to continually do what's best for that person day in and day out, right? The choice to love.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just, okay, this feeling. Because if you build your life and your marriage on the feeling of love, what you think love is, it is going to just, that's why people just end up, oh, okay, the feelings are gone, I'm going to go with the next person until I get those feelings back. Right? Okay, then I must not love that person anymore. I deserve better. I'm going to go with the next person.
Yeah.
That's not what love is.
Almost always it's the other person's fault. Almost always, right? Like whether it's you, it's me, all of us, same thing. You know what I mean? Like I laugh and whatnot, but it was the same thing with me. It's like you marry the person, things start going south, and your thought process is, well, they blah 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 blah.
Yes, you don't know what they did to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, well, I thought, but then they, you know.
Yeah.
And the inability to see our side, right? Which requires love. And like the biblical definition of love is phenomenal. Love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast, isn't self-seeking, you know, does not rejoice in evil, right? Rejoices in the truth. You know, it's like this is a great definition, you know. It's like, what is love, you know? And it's this kind of willingness to accept the person as they are, right? Not and you want the best for that person, right? So you love them where they're at, and you don't try to like form them into whatever you want them to be, you know. But you do. There is an element of honest, you know. You deal with them honestly, you know.
Right, but you also have to align that with truth. Right, like you love somebody and you want what's best for them based upon reality. Right, so you can't just you don't just want to accept, right? Like
absolutely.
Back to that example of, okay, I want all your money, right? If you love me, you're going to give me all your money. Is that what is best for me? You know what I mean? My kids would go to the store and they're like, Dad, can you buy me this? Can you buy me that? Well, is it loving to actually buy them whatever they want?
Is that love?
I would argue, no, it's not love. It's loving to actually do the hard thing and say, no, I'm not going to buy you this, but if you want to work and do this job, I'll give you money so you can buy that yourself. Right? Teach them. It's not loving to say yes to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you can express it that way, but that's not the only way it's expressed. And if it's the only way that's expressed, then it's probably not that at all. You know, which it is. It's a little bit. There's a little bit of slipperiness there, right?
Yeah.
Like so, there's standards. There's certain things that are unacceptable, right? Like my son's like, hey, Dad, I'm gonna, sell crack. You know, I think I can make a lot of money selling crack, and there's lots of opportunity out there. And that's just what I want to do. You know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be very loving for me to say, well, I'm happy, son, that you found something that you think fits you well. Right. And I bet you can make a lot of money and have a lot of success out there. And it's just, more power to you, son.
Yeah.
The loving thing would be, well, son, that's right. You can make a lot of money and there's a lot of opportunity. However, there's tremendous cost to that. One, you're destroying people's lives, right? That's horrible. It's not the type of life you want to lead because, well, who wants to be that guy if you actually have the wherewithal to think about it? And two, you might end up in jail for the rest of your life. So there's consequences to your decisions, and I know that, especially for our kids. So I'm like, no, that's the worst idea. Let's come up with another idea.
Right.
So
when I think about love, the greatest example I could think of, obviously, is going to point back to the Bible. It's going to point back to Jesus, right? The greatest example of love, and going back to like the word love defines an idea and a concept, right? The best concept, as an example, could be what God did for us. Jesus didn't have to come down to earth to die for us. There was no reason he should have, but he chose to do that. Like that, he chose to come down to earth and give up everything, his comfort and everything, and live as a human, which is very degrading from being God.
Yeah.
And then let humans spit on him and torture him and kill him. But why did he do that? He did that for you. He did that for me. He did that for all of us because he loved us, right? John 3:16, for God so loved the world. He loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. That, to me, is the best example of the concept and the idea of love. Yeah. Right? Now take that and apply that in terms of a marriage. Selfless, right? You're choosing you are giving of yourself for the other person.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. That changes the definition from feelings to now. I wake up in the morning, I don't feel like going to work, but you know what? I'm going to choose to do it for my wife and kids, to give them stability, to give them a source of income so that we can have food on the table. I do it for them. Now my motivation has shifted from, okay, I don't feel like going to work because I just want to lay in bed, to I'm doing this out of love for other people. That's a huge motivation change.
I agree. Excellent. You're absolutely right. And that's the idea. That's the most important idea that needs to be conveyed.
Yeah.
So when it becomes something so much more shallow and so much less substantial, that it's essentially a sensual experience that lasts whatever, for a short period of time, and then is that's nothing compared to the idea that is conveyed, which is true love, which is what God did for us, you know what I mean? And then we learn to behave like him, be like him. And then we learn the fulfillment that he's put in real love. Because in real love, you get real relationships. Like where people like really want what's best for you and really actually rejoice when you're doing well, And like they like makes them happy to see you doing well, not like they're just trying to make you think that they're happy for you so that you'll accept them. You know what I mean? And it's like where the real meat of what we actually want in relationships is in that love word.
Yeah.
What next? We got to move on.
Belief. New word, belief. What does that mean?
Belief.
What do you believe belief means?
I believe, my brother said to me a long time ago that it came from, and maybe he was wrong, but I think he's right, I guess. I believed him. He said, buy life. Like the word is kind of, the idea is like, buy life. You can tell what someone believes by their life, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's good.
So, and I always use this example, like, if I told you that my favorite color is green, but I never wore any green, ever. I didn't like, my car wasn't green, nothing I had was green. You went to my house, there was no green. I loved green. I was talking about how much I love the color. I just love the color green. But nothing I had was green. I didn't gravitate towards anything green. There was just no green in my life.
Yeah, and you hated leprechauns.
Leprechauns are the worst, right? You might think like, hey, you really like green?
Yeah.
Like you could get a green shirt if you wanted to. You could stop talking about how much you like green. Maybe wear green and paint something green.
Right.
Put some green on your walls. I don't know. Maybe stupid example.
No, that's a great example. I like it. Because it does apply, right? Because when I think of belief, like if I have belief in this chair that it's going to hold me, I'm going to take the action, right? Belief you can see the belief based on the actions. Right? I'm going to sit down, okay? You can see, I believe this chair is going to hold me, and I take the action to sit on it, and it does,
That was a well-founded belief. You know, your beliefs lead you to action, and that action brings consequences, results, right? You know, if you believe you can sing, and your family never told you you're terrible, you know, you go out on American Idol, you belt out some nonsense.
Yeah.
Reality might set in, and that's probably super depressing. You know, like I think it's fake now, but you imagine like back in the day, I think it was probably legit, where they were letting people try out, and they were just horrible.
So identity, what would I define my identity? I think your identity comes, I think identity is a huge concept because it ties into your meaning, your purpose, why you're here, how you got here. I think it's a big deal, right? And like the example we talked about in our last video with the Ferrari, right? If the Ferrari didn't have the right identity, it would live its whole life not knowing. Yeah, it wouldn't fulfill its purpose. That's good.
Identity should be tied to purpose if there's a purpose at all. Right. If there's a purpose, it ought to be tied to the identity.
It should be tied to truth.
If there's an identity, it should be tied to the purpose. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
If there's a purpose, truth, identity.
Yeah, it's interwoven with these words that we talked about before, because belief and truth, even love, like my identity would have to, my identity would have to be based on my beliefs.
How you identify yourself and how you live. And so here's another way to ask the question. Do you have the right to identify yourself? What is it? And this, I guess, even gets back to the idea of like, what is an identity, right? Like, you have an identity of yourself in your own mind. However, me personally, I find that I don't know myself as well as I typically think I do. And sometimes I actually have to ask other people, you know, like how they've observed me, like, what do you think, how do you think I am in this area? Like, we had this thing with me and my wife or whatever, and I think it was a Bible study thing we were doing, and it was like, how do you feel like mommy treats daddy, and how do you feel like daddy treats mommy as the kids or whatever, you know? And that shed light to both of us, you know, for either one, because they're adding these different perspectives, right? Like, I guess identity is like based off of the word like identify, right? I guess there's kind of in some sense a word, because like me or you, we can identify, like there's a camera, I can identify the camera, right? I see it, I recognize it, I can categorize it and communicate what that is, right? And I can identify you to a certain extent. Like if I'm talking to somebody that doesn't know you, I can give them a decent idea, you know what I mean? Like he's, you know, John is black and he's
fat. Very strong.
Very strong. Well, you are very strong. So I would say John is a middle-aged. You wouldn't like that, huh? Would you like that one? Yeah.
I'm almost a middle-aged.
John's a middle-aged white man, energetic, has some kids, works with computers and networking, and he does camera work. He's a good friend of mine, and he's rides a motorcycle. Blah 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 blah. You know, this is the. Let me give you kind of an idea, a snapshot of like things that how I identify John apart from. Right?
Yeah.
Is that making sense? Is that kind of coming? Is that conveying anything worthwhile?
Yeah. No, I think that definitely is conveying, but I think it goes deeper than that even still. Because like when I think of my identity, I can choose to make my identity based on my roles or my functions, right? I can identify as a systems engineer. I can identify as a husband, right? I can identify as a father, and you can get totally consumed with that specific identity in a role, right? But I think it's so much bigger than that. I think it's based on your beliefs, right? And if I believe that this world is all there is, okay, so I'm just a blob in the cosmos existing. Why? Okay, I'm existing to try to bring myself happiness. I'm trying to find happiness. Do I have a meaning? Do I have purpose, right? I think it goes pretty deep, right? And I would identify as a Christian, right, as a follower of Christ, because everything else wraps, like that concept wraps up my entire being. Right?
Everything else has to fit within that.
Yes.
Within that framework.
Almost like a worldview. Like your identity actually does relate to your worldview because it has to.
Well, yeah, your worldview is from a certain perspective. And that perspective is a central part of your identity, right? Because an identity conveys like a certain perspective, right? Like you could, if you imagine like that you could put different, I guess we use worldviews, the way of looking at the world, right? In different positions, right? Like you have like Islam, you have atheist, you have agnostic, you have Christian. We're all looking at the same world from different perspectives and seeing very different things, right? Like we can look at, the death of a child very differently than an atheist can. You know what I mean? So that perspective plays into the identity, right? I'm still kind of struggling with the question or the thought of like, do we have the ability to establish our own identity?
I think your identity is built on so many different things. It's the core of your being. Right? Like that is like when you think of yourself and who you are, what you're here for, what your life goal is, purpose, meaning, what you find happiness in. All of that is tied into like this concept, this construct of like your identity, right? Like if somebody's an atheist, they identify as an atheist. There's no God, there's no afterlife, there's no moral absolutes from a spiritual perspective, from something bigger than us. Well, that's going to change your entire being, right? It's going to change the way that you find happiness and the way that you find meaning and joy. So I think identity is actually such a deep concept. It encompasses so much.
And we would, I guess I would think like, and I get a lot of this from like Jordan Peterson, the idea that like you are within a community, and that community plays a big part in kind of giving you feedback and keeping you in check and all that and whatnot, and even just in your sanity, basically, like the ability to kind of think and solve problems and whatnot, and you get a tremendous amount of feedback continually. Even in this conversation, both of us are giving each other feedback and cues just from and that shapes a tremendous amount about us. And I think we've probably all known some people who in their mind thought they were a certain type of person.
Yeah.
But in reality, or from what everyone else saw, they were something different. So then the question would be, who's right? Who's right and who's wrong? Right? It's not hard to have like these grandiose ideas about ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if we're in some position of power. Often you see people in positions of power that, they probably have a very different picture of themselves in their head than those who are under them or those who are.
I think that's a very good point. That your identity could be something different than reality, or could be something different from truth, and you have to constantly get that feedback from other people. Like that's a big deal. Something my wife has dealt with early on when we first started having kids. Right, she kind of took the identity of a mother as the entirety of her identity. Right, she was consumed by little kids constantly needing to be looked after and fed and everything. And she had to work through that to like find herself again, right? To like find, I do have hobbies. I do enjoy doing other things outside of just the kids. Now the kids, and I think that's a good example of how your identity can be consumed by something other than what it should be, right? Like you can take an identity, and I think it's also just a great example of how your identity can change, right? I can identify as just a mechanic, you know what I mean? And make my entire existence around this identity of a mechanic. But is that what's in the best interest for me? If based on truth, is that the best identity for me to take, right?
Yeah.
It's something that can be changed. It's something that should be changed based upon reality, right? If we look at reality and truth, I should change my identity to best match up with reality and truth.
Change your identity or change your understanding of your identity?
I think what do you mean by that? Explain that.
So you say change your identity. Like when I guess the way that I'm thinking of the word identity, it's like I'm thinking of it like your identity is who you are, period, right? But there's the who you are, and then there's the idea in your mind of who you are, right?
Okay.
I think it's very difficult to get those to match up just right. I don't think, at least in my experience, I think that, like for instance, let me put it like this. I believe that I'm a Christian, that I'm a son of God, that Christ is my Savior, and my brother, right, and that I'm part of the family of Christ, and I believe as much as I can. I believe this as much as I can. Mm-hmm. That is the most, that is the deepest kind of part of who I know that I am, right? To the point where I think, may the Lord not allow this to happen, but that if my wife were to turn away from God and hate, or if the Lord was, God forbid, may He never do it by His grace, was to take my family and they were all to die tonight or tomorrow, that I would follow Him still. That is what I hope that I believe. Now when the rubber hits the road, you'll see what you believe. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like sometimes I hit my hand and the F word comes out. I don't like that. I don't want that to come out.
Right.
But it does. You know what I mean? Sometimes I hit my hand and it doesn't. But I kind of lost my train of thought. So I think that, as far as the identity goes, right? There's God is the only one that has the ability to determine who we actually are. If there's a God, right? He determines our identity, who we are. He made us, right? Just like the Ferrari thing, just like the Ferrari designer says, this is what it is. This is a Ferrari. This is the engine it has. This is the fuel that it takes. This is how it's supposed to work. This is where it will perform best. This is why I designed it. And this is what it is. It is a Ferrari, right? So I struggle with like when we're thinking about our identity, like in Christ we have a tremendously secure identity presented to us, right? And from that, it's really a tremendously solid, unshakable foundation when we accept it, that from there we can do anything, right? I mean, anything good.
Right. Anything within the parameters He designed us to do.
Yeah. And we might go outside of those and suffer the consequences, right? Well, I mean, I guess not. I was thinking more sin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what you said is accurate. Anything within the parameters that He's given us the ability to do. But therein, even with that belief, I still, in my own mind, sometimes struggle with my own identity.
Right.
Like I know my identity, but it's kind of like sometimes I question myself. And we can't get away with this without talking about all kinds of people are seeking to identify themselves as however, and oddly enough, and it really is odd. It's odd. They're doing this around sexual preference. Sexual preference is the identifying factor for a lot of people, right? That's a strange thing, right? Like up to this point, that's just a kind of like, I would think that if somebody from 100 years ago came and saw all these different kind of whatever, they would at least say, this is a weird way to identify yourself. Because the idea of identity, which we've been discussing, is so big. And it's based on so many factors.
Yes.
Why should this one factor, like sex or sexual preference, be so all-encompassing that it's like the main seat or part of your identity?
Great.
Right?
Yeah. Great point.
So it's like, and this whole idea is talking about words. Right? We're talking about language awareness, right? And so we got truth, love, belief, and now we're into identity. And you get rid of truth, right? You pervert the idea of love, right? You start screwing around with the idea that beliefs don't really matter, right? And now you have identity. And now you got tons of people trying to figure out who they are. And what they're choosing to make the foundation, in some sense, of who they are is sexual preference. Like, now we could go on a whole tyrant as to what, how, this is just, but it's just, at the very least, it's very odd to think that would be what you structure your life around.
It's interesting how, like, the sexual identity becomes the root of who you are. But if you think about it, like you said, even your marriage, sex is only less than 20%.
You can't even hold together a marriage.
Yeah. So why is it your identity and it's consuming your entire being?
And does it deserve that space? Does it deserve that type of authority? Right?
Yeah. Right.
Kind of crazy.
I get it. Like, okay, half of us have genitalia that have one way and the other half has different genitalia. But there's certain people that are short, and certain people that are tall, some people that are dark skinned, some people that are light skinned, some people, you know what I mean? So there's so many different aspects, physical aspects. Why does everybody gravitate towards the sexual thing?
Yeah.
Just wrapping up language awareness. I think we can, from what we've talked about, you can see how language does shape your thinking, right? Like you take language being a label to a concept and you start switching these labels out, you're trying to pervert that concept. Or maybe you just want to hide the concept altogether. You just take that label and move it and redirect it to something else.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like we've all heard of misogynistic, right?
Yeah.
And I looked, that's like somebody who's cruel or nasty or prejudiced towards women, right? Do you know what the word is for somebody that's cruel or nasty or prejudiced toward men? Do you know what that is? Nobody does. Nobody knows what that word is because no one cares, right? But everyone knows what the other word is, right? They got like words like homophobic and the ideas that conveys, right? So you may not believe what these people believe. You don't agree with them with this set of principles, and you think, differently. You simply think differently.
Yeah.
And if you express that, homophobic, what is that? That's just a perversion of even the word phobic, right? Like it's not an accurate word. What is arachnophobic? Right?
It's a fear of spiders.
Fear of spiders, right? So what is homophobic?
Fear of the same.
Fear of.
Is it homo? Homo just means same, right?
Homo I don't even
I
know.
believe like homogeneous, and like homo is just the prefix to slap onto something to mean like of the same.
Which is weird. So how the heck did that word even ever become?
Right.
They use it as the beginning of the word homosexual.
Yeah, homosexual meaning the same of the same sex.
Same sex.
Right. Homo, same.
I didn't know that.
So homophobic doesn't even make sense if you think about it. I fear the same.
So it's a perversion of the word that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
But the idea is to kind of throw kind of a label on someone who doesn't agree with you. You know what I mean? And like some of the younger guys, they don't like that label. Like that's a nasty label. To be called a homophobe or homophobic or whatever. You're seen as intolerant. All these words, tremendously skillful use of words,
right,
to shape the way you think about things, right? And this is the whole language awareness idea is that we could go through lists and lists of these words,
right,
and people are shaping the way that we think with words, and conveying ideas that are not necessarily accurate, especially the homophobic thing. Like if I was to state my case, I could see somebody calling me a homophobe because I know how they use the word.
Yeah.
And I love people that are homosexuals. I don't have any ill feelings towards them whatsoever. I hope that they enjoy their lives. You know what I mean? I don't agree with the principles, and I have reasons I don't agree with the principles. You know what I mean? It's just the bottom line, right? And so I don't label them like Bible phobes,
Right.
You Bible phobe, or you Christian phobia, or you truth phobia. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, but those labels and those words do tremendous work for them.
Yep.
And we enter into the conversations, and we use their words.
Yes.
And we use their terminology, we use their framework that they've built very often, and we lose.
Absolutely. I think there's one word is like abortion. What even 100 years ago or 200 years ago, what did that word even mean? Did it exist, right? So it's some words are actually, in my opinion, these words become, they're kind of, I can't even think of the word. Yeah, what's that like, instead of saying the F-bomb, you say, oh, fudge. What's that called? Euphemism.
Substitute euphemism? Oh, euphemism.
Yeah, so these words become euphemisms or substitutes to try to make things, to placate things, like kind of numb things down to make it not so bad, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to chop my arm off. Instead of calling it, arm chopping, it's, we're going to call it abortion. You know what I mean? Like, okay, instead of, we're literally taking a baby human being and we are going to kill it.
Yes.
Okay, let's name it, let's label it abortion. Okay.
And that's not called a baby, we'll call it a fetus.
A fetus.
You know what a fetus is? Yeah? Baby.
Baby. So, yeah, so you're aborting a fetus.
Latin word for baby.
Aborting a fetus is, if you take the actual truth and the right labels, you're going to call it killing a baby. Yes. We are killing a baby, or we are aborting a fetus. Which one sounds better? Which one gets you thinking, changes your thinking to make it seem like it's not so bad?
Yeah, we'll terminate the pregnancy. Yes, yeah. Abortion, yes. Absolutely. Skillful.
Very skillful.
Use of words. And we ought to learn from that rather than enter into their framework.
Right.
But for now, we'll just stay two dudes.
Yeah. We are two dudes talking language awareness.
If you haven't figured it out yet, we're a little bit conservative. John's kind of liberal.
I'm black and liberal.
Yes.
That's how I identify. Stop it.
Is it? I'm
black, liberal, 60-year-old.
Well, you'll have to try to see if you can get some benefits. I'm taking advantage of my white privilege.
Here we are, two dudes talking language awareness.